Hey Perry, I do have a comment. Just,
Okay, awesome.
so guys, this is Al. I just thank you, Perry, for putting on this training. I just wanted to chime in on the probate issue. So anytime a property is there's a death in the family and there is no will, it's automatically going to go to probate. Okay, which again is going to create a tremendous amount of potential conflict, especially if there's more than one potential heir. So this thing can get tied up in a court process. And normally with probate, you could be looking at 1 to 2 years out before they come to resolution. So what's important to know is that when we're calling somebody and there's a potential probate issue, what we're looking to do is buy down that time. So the cost of that is part of the equity. So when we're buying, when we're making offers or we're trying to transact with something that's in probate, we're looking to offer the buyer 70% under market value. And what is important about that? Well, it gives us an opportunity to come in, buy something under market value, and then turn around and offer it back into the market, off market. Okay, so one of the big other issues that we're going to see is the factoring of time. When you're dealing with a property that's potentially in a divorce situation, which I've done multiple in the last year, dealing with multiple attorneys on both sides, dealing with the court process, we are dealing with a tremendous amount of potential liability. And it becomes very, very important that we understand the process. But guess what? As you're making contacts, you're going to come across these. And it presents an opportunity for us to come in as professionals and give them solutions, which is why they may not want to put it on the market. They may want to keep it off the market because they don't want the neighbors to know, that they don't want a for sale sign in the front yard. And so they're more apt to keep things private. They want to move things quickly. And because of that, they're willing to take less of a profit than if they were to put it traditionally on the market. The other thing is privacy. Sometimes people don't want to do an open house. They don't want, hundreds of people walking through their homes on a weekend. There's so much tremendous amount of distress they may be going through already, especially if it's a divorce. And so they don't want people in their home, or they're just going through stuff. There may have been a death in the family and they don't want people going through their home. So the off-market, scenario allows them an opportunity to get this house sold, move it fast, and do it in a way that kind of protects their privacy. And so it's a win-win. We have to find the win-win scenario that works for both parties. And I mean both the buyer, the seller, and the potential buyer. Because if we have an off-market buyer, like in this situation, if it's a divorce, and we're putting it off market, guess what? We have an opportunity to find the buyer and do the buyer's loan. Okay, but we have to disclose that this is a potential court situation because of the divorce. And on top of that, we're not looking to use that as an advantage for the buyer. Remember, we have fiduciary duty to both sides. So on the buying side, although we want to let them know this is a potential divorce situation, we're not using that as a leverage to milk the seller. Does that make sense? We have a fiduciary duty if we are looking to represent both parties. So just keep that in mind as you're making calls. Life is happening to people, and meaning so that deaths are happening, people are getting divorced, all kinds of situations where people are getting are retiring, they want to downsize, and they don't want to stay in the area. They want to sell here and move somewhere else. It's crazy. In fact, I have a client now that we're working on that they left California for Nevada, but now they want to come back to California. Okay, and they want to come back to the Bay Area. So they're looking for a new home. They were looking for another home in Gilroy, and the pricing in Gilroy it's around $850 on the low end to $1.5 million for the newer side. So we're getting them in the process again. They're pre-qualified, and guess what? We're going to be taking them shopping sometime at the end of the month. Okay, so many things are happening. Some are leaving, some are coming back. Some are new families, they need more space. Some are, they're empty nesters and they need to leave, right? So many different scenarios when you're making calls. Just make sure you're open to having that conversation. And really, it's about making a connection on the phone and developing enough trust that people are willing to open up to you and say, hey, this is what I'm really dealing with. Here's what I'm looking at. I need to get this thing, this done because I need to move or I need to do something. So just a little bit of insight, Perry, on what you were mentioning about this is a huge area, this off-market deal. Again, there's a need, there's a situation for it, and it's our job to discover it and then help them with the situation here. Perry, anything else on that? I'm gonna turn it back to you.
Yeah, absolutely. I need to ask you for the SDRs or agents that are obviously needing support. What's before they're setting up appointment for you and your team? What information do you want to see from them? So that that these individuals are either serious or they're more qualified than just they're just looking loose. What do you want to kind of know right off the bat from a potential seller?
The biggest question we want to answer is why. Okay, what and why? What are you looking to accomplish? What are your goals in the next 30 to 60 days? How urgent is this? How important is this? When somebody says, well, I'm looking to sell, I'm trying to move, I want to leave this area. And so the question I'd be like, so on a time frame perspective, are you looking to have this happen in the next 30 to 60 days? Because there's a process to it. And if time is an issue, we want to do some things to prepare you for this. So whether or not you want to sell and move, one of the things we want to do is do a market analysis. Number one, we're not trying to close right there on that first call. It's just a setup. It's just a setup for us to come in and do our due diligence. So if somebody says they're interested in selling, really what we want to do is offer that free analysis, because that free analysis will allow us to have the next conversation, which is based on facts. Now, here's the facts. Your property is worth X amount of dollars. The facts, here's what you owe on the property, right? So here's what we can do. If you were to sell today's average market based on this price versus after we deduct everything, here's what you could potentially net. Right. So now we're able to draw them out, at least give them a vision of what could happen if they're selling, if they sell. And then obviously the next question is, now where would you like to go? Right. So now we're even taking a step in the further. Well, I'm interested in going to, the Central Valley. Really, that's great. Which city are you interested in? Well, I'm interested in, in Ripon or Bakersfield or somewhere. So now we could kind of draw them out. And okay, well, so what are you looking for there? Well, I'm looking for a single family home, and this is our price range, right? So now we know that from the proceeds of the sale that they can potentially pay cash for the next house, right? So the more they're involved and they have knowledge of what's possible, the more it is easier for them to make a decision. My suggestion is we move forward. Let's do this analysis. Let's see what the market looks like for your property, and then let's get you in touch with one of our reps, right? That's a conversation. We didn't talk about rates. We didn't talk about markets. All we did is I call this it's like playing volleyball, and you got to bump the ball. You're going to set it up for us to come in and I would say spike it, but at least do the next part. This is and I'm originally from LA, so I'm gonna say it's like Laker basketball. This is the fast pace,
Yeah.
We gotta move, we're all working together, but you pass the ball, and then, what happens is I get a yes, they want to make a move, and I pass the ball to Eddie, and Eddie does what, this is how fast things can move.